Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hey everyone, it's the last Monday of 2020. Can you believe it? We made it. 2021 is right around the corner, and hopefully it's going to be tons better. I'm knocking on wood, everyone. And today we are closing out the year with author Mark Leslie, and he's here from Canada, so I'm really excited for you guys to meet him. If you haven't read his work yet, you're in for a treat, and I'll read his bio here so you can get to know him. Mark Leslie would be the first person to admit that he's still afraid of the monster under his bed. Proudly adopting the term book nerd for himself, Mark is a writer, editor, and bookseller, and is most comfortable with a pen in his hand, fingers on the keyboard, or his nose stuck in a book. His first book, One Hand Screaming, collected most previously published short stories and poetry, along with a few original tales, and his other fiction includes I, Death, Evasion, and A Canadian Werewolf in New York, which of course we need to talk about, right, because I write werewolves. Anyway, Mark's dark fiction is often compared to Twilight Zone or Black Mirror in terms of style, exploring what-if themes with contemporary settings that include speculative elements, gently skipping around the genres of sci-fi, horror, and urban fantasy. He's also the editor of science fiction anthologies and a horror anthology, which we're going to talk about today, Obsessions. He is born in Sudbury, Ontario. I can read. Mark has courted with a serious addiction to reading and writing his entire life. He's called both Ottawa and Hamilton home those are both in Ontario, for a decade each, and currently lives in Waterloo, Ontario. You can learn more about him on his website. I did put a link right there on Blog Talk, so you can click that anytime and go check out his website. He's got so much information there, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, so don't want to delay any longer. Are you there, Mark?
Oh, I am here. Thank you so much for having me on, Lisa.
Yeah, thanks for being here all the way up in Canada. I bet it's freezing there right now.
You know what, it was, but we actually got rain over. Well, okay, it's snowing now that I look out the window, but yeah, if you turn around, it's going to change again.
Okay, so you're not like in the frozen tundra of Canada.
No, we're in a snow belt, so we weekly get some snow, but not nearly as much as Sudbury, Ontario, which is about another 4 hours north from where I am. They get a real winter, real winter from November all the way through till April.
Yeah, I had an author from Calgary, I think, who was on, and they were like, "You just stay inside."
Oh yeah. Calgary gets a real winter, like real times two.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, like Santa winter.
Yeah.
So you have an anthology, and you told me before the show started that it's on sale. Do you want to tell everybody why they should go grab Obsessions right now?
Yeah, sure. So Obsessions it's an anthology of original stories. So it's a crossover between contemporary fiction, some mystery, some science fiction, some horror, and it's on the theme of obsession. So the things that people get obsessed with. And I have all original stories, including New York Times bestselling authors Christine Catherine Rush and Dean Wesley Smith, who I was honored enough that they wrote original stories for this anthology. And it's regularly $6.99 US in ebook form. Now it's available in trade paperback and hardcover as well. But for Boxing Week, which is a thing here in Canada and in the UK, for Boxing Week through the beginning of January, it's 99 cents temporarily. So you can get 300 pages of 16 original stories by some brilliant writers that really obviously explore different versions of obsession. Some of them are sick and twisted. Some of them are cute. Some of them are sad. But yeah, it's an anthology I'm really proud of because I read over 1.5 million different words to select the stories for the anthology.
Wow.
So it was kind of like the best of the best that made it in here.
Very cool. And did you come up with the theme, or did the publisher? How did you guys come up with Obsession?
I actually ended up publishing this. I was working with a publisher at anthology workshops, and we would come up. There would be 6 different editors, and it was this really great interactive panel where each editor comes up with a theme, and then the writers write to that theme. And it's usually limited to about 75 writers or so. That pretty top-notch writers that have to actually audition to get in to the class.
Right.
And so those are the themes of the last 4 or 5 anthologies I'd edited. And then with this one, just around early time when COVID hit, the publisher had to change their business and was not going to be able to publish it. It was to come out in the fall of 2020. And they contacted me and said, we're so sorry, we can't end up publishing this anthology. And so I took it upon myself to, I got a Kickstarter together so I could pay the authors the professional 6 cents a word that they were planning on receiving. And I reached out to them and said, hey, listen, bad news, publisher can't do it. Good news, I have 2 cents a word, put aside in my savings that I can pay you with.
Aww.
But I want to get to 6. Who's in? And so most of the authors stayed, in which case I had to go and find a few other stories to fit in with the anthology. But most of the authors stuck it out, believed in it, and I managed to raise the funds, raised over $12,000 Canadian, which would be like $10,000 US. So I could pay them pro rates. And also, this is a royalty share. Now, most times when you're in an anthology, you get paid up front and then that's it. The publisher makes the money.
Right.
In this particular case, I'm using Draft 2 Digital's. They have a new payment splitting program where I can ensure that each author gets a cut of every paper book and ebook sale as well. So I wanted to kind of push the boundaries of publishing. I kind of like being as generous as possible with the writers. So yeah, it's an anthology I did not expect at the beginning of the year to be publishing. It is an anthology I am so proud. So proud. There's a story in here that almost everyone who's read it, like they weep at the end of the story in a very good, heartwarming way. But it's when you have stories like that in an anthology where people are affected by the story and the characters are real and the struggles the characters go through really make someone think. That's such a great honor as an editor that you got to help these writers get these stories out into the world.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I love that you believed in it so much that you kept it alive even after 2020 happened.
Yeah, let's just say it was an obsession of mine to see this anthology see the light of day.
I love it. And I hope everyone who's listening will run out and grab it. And if you get it this week, it's only 99 cents. And if you love those stories and they make you cry, please leave reviews because it really does help more readers find the book. And Amazon likes that in their algorithm. So anyway, even short reviews totally help. So
even a simple, honest one line. Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true.
Yeah, it's very true. And I teased it when I was reading your bio there, but you want to tell everybody about the Canadian Werewolves? I can't wait.
Yeah. So Canadian Werewolf in New York was a novel that was first released in 2016. I re-released it last year with a proper cover. And it was based on a 10,000-word short story. I was writing for an anthology, a themed anthology on it's kind of like behind the monster, the person behind the monster. And so I wrote this 10,000-word story about a guy who wakes up naked in Battery Park in New York with a bullet hole in his leg, and he's kind of like, oh, God, what did I do last night? Because he turns into an actual wolf, has no memory of his wolf time, and he's naked. He's got to find his way home. Like, how am I going to get clothes and solve the mystery? So it was meant to just be a short look at the side effects of living with being a werewolf. But, of course, I couldn't resist. I grew up on Spider-Man and other Marvel characters like Daredevil and Wolverine who had extra heightened senses. So I, of course, had to have this guy have extra senses and powers and use these powers for good. So as he's trying to figure out his struggle, he's also helping people the way a superhero would help. And a good friend of mine, Sean Costello, who's a brilliant thriller writer, Sean read the short story, and it kind of ends, and it sort of leaves some open endings, but it's supposed to end there. It's just like short stories, just a cute little thing. He meets the little destination that's intended for the short story, and it's done. And he goes, well, what happens next? The rest of his day, what happens? And I was like, nothing. That's it. But he kept bugging me. So it's kind of like the novel is a full day in his life. He ends up going on the David Letterman show. And the whole thing takes place during daylight hours. So you never see him as a wolf. You only see him as a man dealing with the side effects of being a wolf in his, when the moon
wolf
comes
aftermath.
up, basically. Yeah, and so that was a fun. It's like dark, humorous superhero adventure. I had a lot of fun with the David Letterman bit as well. And then there's a final confrontation that actually happens backstage while Letterman's being recorded between him and the main bad guy. So, which is another wolf creeping up on his territory. And so that was, that was a lot of fun. I had a really, really good time with it, and I really have a good time exploring I get to play in Spider-Man style territory, right? So growing up on those comic books and the methodology of with great power comes great responsibility. So obviously my main character, Michael Andrews, is very much not a victim to that, but he cannot help but want to use his powers to help other people, and obviously keep his affliction from being known, because he doesn't want to be captured and studied by the government or whatever would happen.
Right.
For a werewolf.
And is he the same hero in all the books? Aren't there a few books now?
Yeah. So Stowaway, a novella, came out this year, and Stowaway is basically about him going up to Stowe, Vermont on a train, and it's kind of like I described it as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles meets Logan. He's got a young girl that he's trying to protect, and of course, based on the train leaving Manhattan and getting to Stowe, Vermont, on the cycle of the werewolf thing, the cycle of the month for him, he's going to turn into a wolf before the train reaches a destination. So there's always that tension of that. and I've got Fear and Longing in Los Angeles, where he is in L.A. After his girlfriend dumps him and he's by himself. So Fear and Longing, obviously a play on the Hunter Thompson Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And so I'm having fun with that. So I kind of, and again, as you can tell with the Canadian Werewolf in New York, is I was riffing off of an American Werewolf in London, which did have dark humor in it as well.
Yes,
so yeah, it's Michael Andrews. It's his first person narrative, and there's only one story that I haven't yet released, which is how he meets this significant woman in his life. It's their meet cute, and so half of that story is told from Gail's point of view for the very first time. So it was really fun for me to take this character I love and see the world through her eyes, not through Michael's eyes. That was a really great exercise for me.
And will there be more books, or is this going to be the last one that comes out?
No, I have, working with my editor, we've talked through quite a few things, and even in working on Fear and Longing in Los Angeles, he helped me see some things I can plant. I've planted some things in book 1. I'm going to be planting a few more things in book 2, and then some of those elements will come out in the later books. No idea what they're going to be at this point, but I can see. I really enjoy the character, and he's mostly going to maintain his interactivity in Manhattan. But I couldn't help go to L.A. I couldn't help. I had been on a visit to Los Angeles, and there were a few places I had visited. I just wanted to write about things set there, so I was like, let's just do that. See what happens if I stick them in Los Angeles for a while.
Very cool. And do you go to New York a lot? So are you familiar with setting it there usually?
Yeah. You know what? In a normal year, a non-COVID year, I would be in New York twice a year on average, if not more. Some years I've been there more. Well, sometimes I go and I'm only there for a day, but yeah, haven't been to New York this year, and I'm hoping it'd be nice to return. I love the city. I wrote the short story after my very first visit to New York years and years ago, and I think I fell in love with it immediately. And every time I return to New York, I fall in love with a different neighborhood, because it's not just this mega city. It's this. There's so many different areas and feels of neighborhoods that you really don't get until you spend time walking through them. And I mean, my partner and I, on one of our visits to New York, ended up walking the equivalent of a marathon from Hell's Kitchen, where we were staying in the hotel, all the way down through Brooklyn, like walking across the bridge and then down in, because we were on a brewery tour, trying to get to as many breweries as we could. And again, when I got back, I was like, oh, okay, so well, that was like 45 kilometers. Like that was we just did a marathon today, and we drank a lot of beer too. What a great way to see the city.
Wow, good day.
Yeah.
That's a whole new kind of bar crawl.
It's an amazing bar crawl, but the cool thing is I'm also researching for the books, right? So, you know, going to the different locations, those end up being seen places where Michael visits because I'm intimate. I've walked through there. I've sat there. You know, I've eaten there. I've drank there. So I can have him do these things because they're places that I already know intimately. And that's one of the things I love because it is hard. In Google Maps, you can kind of plant yourself there and stand and turn around and hope that building's still there. But it's not always going to be there.
But it's so cool when you can go there. I always like to go to the settings where I'm setting books and series because then you can really see where might they work, where might they go if they go on a date, or you know what things smell like when they walk down that street, and you can't get that from Google. So I agree with you. It makes a huge difference.
No, exactly. It's like, what is it like in Battery Park at 6 a.m? You know, when I first wrote the story, I actually had to rely on a writer who lived there. And was like, hey, I've never been there at 6 a.m. What's it like? Can you describe it to me?
Can you go out at 6 a.m. and tell me?
It's someone who's lived there their whole life, so I assume they must have been there at least at one point in time at a certain time of day. But that's important, right? Michael wakes up naked, you know, somewhere after howling at the moon all night as a wolf, usually in Central Park. And again, it was so great this last scene at the beginning of Stowaway, which was crafted specifically. I remember Liz and I, you know, we spent almost an entire day exploring Central Park. And I was spending half the time making notes of, well, this could be a spot where he wakes up. This could be a spot where he would hide his clothes. Like all of these different things. And it's like, because I'm going off you're not supposed to go off the paths and stuff like that, but I'm going off the paths to go, would he be, you know, not visible if he hides here to change? So,
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
That's very cool. And I always ask when authors come on the show, everybody's journey is so different, and it sounds like you've always been attracted to books, but you were actually a bookseller. When did you decide to be a writer? What did your publishing journey look like?
Oh, wow. I think I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. It started with these, you know, I would play with little Fisher-Price characters, you know, little finger puppet ones. And then as I got older, I got the more advanced ones with movable arms and legs, and I would tell myself these stories, and that was playtime for me. And so when I discovered putting words down on paper, and the fact that I could leave a story and walk away, and someone else could read it and explore it, that was magic to me, and that's what a book is. And so I remember in the early days discovering this typewriter in my mom's closet. I think it was during March break in Northern Ontario. So, you know, if you're not going ice fishing or playing hockey, there's not much to do outside. So I remember finding the typewriter and uncovering it. And I was like, whoa, and just hammering away, trying to write like whatever I could write. I spent the summer when I was 14 in the basement while my, you know, friends were out. I was vitamin D deficient. They were out in the sun, fun, having a good time. I was like pale, pasty kid in the basement, hammering out this really horrible Conan the Barbarian sort of fan fiction based on the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies at the time. You know, they're based on these Dungeons and Dragons adventures. And I was like, I'm going to be a novelist. And I think I got my first rejection when I started sending short stories out when I was 15. And slowly worked my way up, you know, selling a story for a payment in copy of the magazine, and then $5, and then eventually getting pro rates. And that's what led to the first book, 2004. I'd had all of these stories published, but they were only in like small press magazines that no one ever really saw. And so that's when I collected them. myself and said, I'm gonna re-release these in an anthology, or not an anthology, because an anthology is other people's stories, but in a short story collection. And that was kind of the start for me. So, yeah, writing has always been central to my life, and so I got into book selling because it was I was looking at I wanted to get into journalism. My marks weren't high enough. I didn't get into any of the journalism programs I applied to, but I got into the English programs, and I'm like, okay, so degree in English, great. Started working part-time in a bookstore when I was in university, in my last year of university, and thought, this is cool. I can be near books. Even if I can't, be a journalist, I can be near books, and maybe that'll keep me inspired. And I stayed in book selling. I worked in almost every aspect of the book industry. The only aspect of book selling I haven't worked for a used bookstore. I haven't worked for a Christian bookstore, but I've worked for independent, big box, academic, online bookstore, ebook stores, distribution, like all the places. So I really got to learn about the business. So even when I self-published that first book in 2004, or when my very first traditionally published book came out in 2012, when I pitched that to a publisher, I did them with business acumen, understanding like that side of the industry, like how is a publisher going to acquire something, or why is a customer going to want to buy this, based on working in bookstores my whole life.
Right. Where will it be shelved? You knew all those things.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really beneficial for me to understand simple things like turnability of books, and whether or not that impacts their willingness to carry a book or not. Little things like that were really, really helpful. Things that I continue to do to help other writers with, but I definitely leveraged it for myself. Like with Haunted Hamilton, I remember I was at an industry event where I overheard the vice president of Dundurn, Canada's largest independent publisher, say, "We've always wanted to publish a book of ghost stories about Hamilton, Ontario." And so I pitched them a book of ghost stories about Hamilton, Ontario, because A, I knew they wanted to do it. They've always wanted to do that.
Right.
And B, there were no books. Like nobody had ever written a book about ghost stories about Hamilton.
Wow.
And there was a really great tour group, Haunted Hamilton, and Ghost Walks, that were doing Ghost Walks of Hamilton because there were so many great stories. And I was like, well, there's a demand for it, and the publisher wants to do it. Why don't I pitch that to them? And guess what? They sent a contract there. They said, hey, send us the book and we'll get it in this fall's catalog. And I'm like, oh God, I better write it now. So I took a week off work to write it. But that was, So next, usually before I pitch, I usually plan something out a little bit better.
We learn as we go.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, because you're also on your website, you're a writer, you're an author coach, a speaker, a book nerd. Do you wear different hats? Do you merge them all together? Do you, how do you treat all these different sides of yourself?
It's funny because that guy is all over the map, right? So Mark Leslie is the name that I usually use for my writing, and most of my true ghost stories, fiction, all of that is Mark Leslie. But because in parallel, while Mark Leslie was honing his craft and just getting published, this Mark Lefebvre guy, and nobody can ever spell or pronounce Lefebvre. My full name is Mark Leslie Lefebvre, Leslie being my middle name. No one could ever spell or pronounce Lefebvre. But because if you look at the word, you'll go, "Ooh, what's that?" A whole bunch of syllables and consonants that you don't pronounce. And so, but in the publishing and book selling, the business of writing and publishing, I was known as Mark Lefebvre, and so it does cross over now, because I actually have released a number of books for writers under Mark Leslie Lefebvre, because I'm known as the guy. I created Kobo Writing Life for Kobo, which is their answer to Kindle Direct Publishing, like a direct publishing platform. I work with Draft Digital, one of the world's best distributors if you're looking for distribution of your ebook into different retailers and libraries. So
Very cool.
I tried to keep Lefebvre out of it because no one could ever spell or pronounce it. But ironically, ironically, this Lefebvre guy keeps sticking his big nose, and he has a big nose. He just keeps sticking his bald head and his big nose into all of my business.
He's the business guy, and you are the creative.
Yeah, and so it's fun. It's always funny when I book an event or someone wants me to come speak. I'm like, well, do you want me to be Mark Leslie, the guy who writes true ghost stories, the guy who writes fiction? Do you want me to be Mark Lefebvre, the guy who talks about the business? Or like, just tell me what hat I should pack for this trip.
Right.
And sometimes
right.
they go, a little bit of everything. I'm like, okay, well,
oh
turkey
yay,
surprise.
all the hats.
Yeah.
Bring every hat.
Yeah.
I saw too that you have a podcast, Stark Reflections. Do you do you gear that toward readers or writers, or what's that all about?
It's for writers. Yeah, so it's for writers because one of the things, because I cut my chops initially in traditional publishing, I got into self-publishing like 10 years before all the cool kids started doing it, 2004. And so I've known the industry for about 30 years or so. And I get really, really frustrated that traditional publishers just seem to have their heads up their backsides and don't really understand and appreciate ebook selling. So my traditional publishers are amazing at print, but not so good at ebooks. And I'm equally frustrated that indie authors or self-published authors know nothing about the business and don't even understand that other side. And they're both huge sides to the business. And so Stark Reflections was my attempt to demonstrate the benefits of traditional publishing, the benefits of self-publishing, but also then the hiccups of traditional publishing and the hiccups of self-publishing, because there's no one right path for any author. And so the reason I call it Stark is Stark was the imprint I made up back when I released One Hand Screaming, my best friend Steve. So Steve and Mark, we had a DJ company in university called Stark Entertainment because it was our names, Steve and Mark. And so he's a graphic designer. He did my first cover. He designed the logo and I was like, hey, Steve, can I use Stark Publishing? Register the business. And so that's with Stark Reflections, because I try to be honest about the realities of the situation. So it is geared for writers. And I take turns interviewing indie authors, traditionally published authors, and even non-authors, because I think we can learn so much from other people like musicians or other creatives, artists as well. I've had musicians and cartoonists on my show as well. So yeah, that's my attempt to try and, again, like I did with, Haunted Hamilton and books like that, there's a gap in the market. And I was like, hey, there's no one doing this. I want to do this. I want to share this with them so that they can actually make informed decisions rather than guessing how this works, or so they can make a decision and go, is this particular project something I should license to a publisher, or is it something I should do myself? If I do it myself, what are the pros and cons? If I go with a publisher, what are the pros and cons? So that's kind of the approach that I take.
Oh, that's very cool. And they can find that on your website, right?
Yeah, markleslie.ca pretty much links to all my social medias as well as the podcast.
All your hats.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time, what's next for you in 2021? What do you have coming up?
Oh boy. So I am in the throes of writing Wide for the Win, which is basically a look for authors on the benefits of publishing wide, not just being exclusive to Kindle, but, and wide in the grandest sense, not just having your books on all the other platforms, but embracing traditional publishing. I've got Fear and Longing in Los Angeles coming out in February. I actually have 3 other book projects that about a month ago I didn't realize were going to happen, but I'm working on right now. Kind of like Obsessions, where they just came out of the blue, and I'm like, hey, why don't I publish that? So yeah, I've got a few other projects, and probably by the time February hits, they'll have changed. Because one thing I learned is to embrace the change and kind of roll with the changes that come.
That's right. You have to be flexible.
Yeah, exactly.
So really quick before we run out of time, how do you like readers to get in touch with you? Through your website, Facebook? Where can they find you?
Go to markleslie.ca. There's a form there, but they can also reach out to me on the different social media like Twitter or whatever if they're interested.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being here. It was great having you on.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
And everyone, go grab Obsessions, the anthology. It's on sale for 99 cents right now. So take care, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.